They threw blue paint into his eyes. They kicked him. They stomped on him. They threw bricks and stones at his body. They forced batteries into his mouth. They even dropped a 22-pound iron bar on his head. They laid his body across the tracks, weighed his head down with rubble, and then left. A train severed him in two. He was found 2 days later. Thompson and Venables were just 10 years old.
You're gonna tell me they don't deserve the death penalty? Oh no, bro, they gotta get out of here, bro. They cannot be breathing in the same air as us, bro. All right, y'all. So I had seen like this got clipped up on TikTok. I want to react to it. It's the most evil kids in history. The reason why I want to like react to this with you guys, man, is like, bro, my whole mission is to try to protect kids. But I'm gonna be real, man. There are some evil kids out there. When we react to this video and we hear some of these like horrible crimes that these kids committed, I don't care what age you committed that crime at. If you did something heinous and deplorable and disgusting, that even like for an adult to do that, that is like, whoa, even an adult did that. You should like spend the rest of your life in prison. I know this is gonna sound crazy, bro. But if a kid did something absolutely horrible, like a kid doing a school shooting, I think children should also face the death penalty. Why does it only have to be for adults? Oh, their brain wasn't developed. Like, bro, what do you mean? What development do you have to not go into a school and harm kids? Let's listen to some of these crimes and I'll tell you if they deserve the death penalty or not.
Brenda Spencer. A reporter called the house while the shooting was still happening. He asked her why, and she said, "I don't like Mondays. This livens up the day." On the morning of January 29th, 1979, 16-year-old Brenda Spencer loaded a rifle, sat by her front window, and began firing across the street at Grover Cleveland Elementary School in San Diego.
I don't even need to hear the rest. Death penalty. What? I've never heard about this. How old is she?
Children were waiting for the gates to open, and she shot 8 of them. She started with 9-year-old Cam Miller because he was wearing blue, her favorite color. Principal Burton Ragg ran outside to help, but she killed him. Custodian Mike Sucher tried to drag Ragg to safety. She killed him too. A police officer was hit in the neck. 36 rounds, 15 minutes. Then she barricaded herself inside. The phone rang. A reporter from the San Diego Tribune had been calling houses near the school looking for witnesses. Spencer picked up the phone. He asked her if she could see the shooting, and she said, "Who do you think's doing the shooting?" Spencer lived with her father in a house littered with empty bottles. They shared a single mattress on the floor. Staff at her school had flagged her as suicidal. A psychiatrist recommended she be admitted to a mental hospital, but her father refused. That Christmas, she asked for a radio. Instead, he gave her a Ruger semi-automatic rifle with a telescopic sight and 500 rounds of ammunition.
He deserves the death penalty as well. I'm so happy. There was a school shooting not too long ago where a guy gave his kid the weapon, and I think they gave the dad life. Majority of the times, it really isn't the parents' fault. But like, you're over here giving a 13-year-old an assault rifle? Before the shooting had happened, the police came to his house to talk to him because the kid made a threat about doing something to the school. And then after you know your son made that threat, you buy him a rifle? Yeah, you should definitely spend the rest of your life in prison. How old is this girl, Brenda Spencer? 16 years. No, Jadion, she doesn't deserve the death penalty. Yes. Yes.
She later said, "He bought the rifle so I would kill myself." She surrendered after a 7-hour standoff. Once negotiators promised her a Burger King meal. Spencer pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to 25 years to life, denied parole 6 times. She's still in prison. She is considered the first modern school shooter in American history. At her 2001 hearing, she said something no one expected. "With every school shooting, I feel I'm partially responsible. What if they got the idea from what I did?" Lionel Tate.
So chat, what do you guys think, man? Death penalty, yay or nay? You're shooting elementary school kids? I think that's death penalty. I know she had a horrible upbringing and all of that, but no.
He was 12 years old, and he said he was just copying what he saw on TV. On the night of July 28, 1999, Lionel Tate was left alone with 6-year-old Tiffany Unick in his family's living room in Broward County, Florida. His mother was upstairs. The TV was on. Professional wrestling. She called down and told them to be quiet. 45 minutes later, Lionel came upstairs and said Tiffany wasn't breathing. She wasn't just not breathing. Her skull was fractured. Her liver was lacerated. She had a broken rib, a swollen brain, and bruises across her legs, feet, and neck. Over 35 separate injuries. Doctors compared the force to being hit by a car. Tiffany was just 6, and Lionel was 12. He said he was imitating wrestling moves from television. He didn't mean to hurt her. But no wrestling move fractures a skull, no accident lacerates a liver, and no 12-year-old inflicts 35 injuries on a 6-year-old without knowing exactly what he's doing.
Oh my
The jury
gosh.
convicted him of first-degree murder. The judge called his actions cold, callous, and indescribably cruel. Lionel Tate became the youngest person in modern American history sentenced to life without parole. He was only 13. The sentence was overturned in 2004. His mental competency had never been evaluated before trial. He took a plea deal for second-degree murder, time served, and 10 years probation. Then he walked free. But 1 year later, he held up a pizza delivery man at gunpoint. He was sentenced to 30 years.
Listen, man, in this case, maybe not the death penalty, but life in prison. Like, I don't know why people can't fathom the fact of like, oh, they're a kid when they made this decision. We were all children at one point. We never made any decision like this. When I was 12 years old, if I was watching over a 6-year-old or something, I would never hurt a 6-year-old, let alone my sister. In that way, no. Bro, I'm gonna say life. For this case, life. I think kids should get the life penalty, bro. Some of these fuckers are evil. Like the kids that led the girl with the Slender Man. Bro, that was horrible, chat.
The judge told him, "You've run out of chances. You do not get any more." Tate is still in prison. The wrestling defense made headlines around the world. But Tiffany Unick, the 6-year-old with 35 injuries who never got to grow up, barely made a footnote. Thompson and Venables. 38 people saw them walking with the toddler, but nobody stopped them. On February 12, 1993, two 10-year-old boys walked into the New Strand Shopping Center in Bootle, England. They were skipping school. They spent the afternoon shoplifting sweets, batteries, and a can of blue paint. At some point, they started watching children. One of them later said they had a plan: find a small child and lead him to the busy road outside. At 3:42, CCTV captured them, taking 2-year-old James Bulger by the hand and leading him out of the shopping center. His mother had let go for a few seconds to pay at the butcher's counter. Thompson and Venables walked James 2.5 miles across Liverpool. He was crying. They told anyone who asked that he was their little brother. 38 people saw them, but almost nobody intervened. They led him to a railway line. What happened next took investigators weeks to reconstruct. They threw blue paint into his eyes. They kicked him. They stomped on him. They threw bricks and stones at his body. They forced batteries into his mouth. They even dropped a 22-pound iron bar on his head. The pathologist counted 42 separate injuries, but none could be identified as the fatal blow. They laid his body across the tracks, weighed his head down with rubble, and then left. A train severed him in two. He was found 2 days later. Thompson and Venables were just 10 years old.
You're gonna tell me they don't deserve the death penalty? Oh no, bro, they gotta get out of here, bro. They literally need to. They gotta be gone. They cannot be breathing in the same air as us, bro. And that's the sad thing about it. It's like our whole channel is about protecting kids from adults and stuff. But you know, and I really gotta preface this, man. We gotta protect kids from kids. Kids are just as evil as adults are. A 10-year-old did this to a 2-year-old. That little boy, I can only imagine what he was going through. God, please bless his soul.
They became the youngest convicted murderers in modern British history. They served 8 years. They were released at 18 with new identities and lifetime anonymity.
Wait,
they
what?
served 8 years. They were released at 18 with new identities and lifetime anonymity.
UK, what are you doing? So these monsters are back on your streets. And you won't even be able to know who they are. It's one thing to release them, but we can't even know who they are? Hey, we're gonna give you a new identity. We're gonna get you set up in a nice position. Whenever you get hired somewhere, you know what? Hey, do you want to go work with children? Do you want to go work with children? Is that what you want to do with your new life? Even though you murdered a child, here, you know what? We're gonna scrub your record. It's gonna be illegal for anybody to like find your past record of what you guys did. Nah, man. This is when like someone needs to actually be doxxed. Their address, what their name is, where they live, what they do for a living. Death penalty. I don't care. Kill them.
Venables has been sent back to prison twice since, both times for possessing child sexual abuse images.
You can't do that as a kid and grow up to be a normal, productive citizen in life. He was probably watching the CSAM. I don't want to get caught with this again. Let me just watch this. It's gonna be only a matter of time before he tries to recreate what he did in his youth. No, every single time. It sucks to say, man. It really does. It really does. I know I'm gonna sound like the heartless bastard. Oh, Jadion's over here talking about he's trying to protect kid. Bro, this isn't a child. This is a monster. He needs to die. He needs to be unalive. They need to be off this earth. Had any grown man done this, everybody unanimously was like, oh yeah, off with their head. With a kid, well, we gotta think about their upbringing. No.
James Bulger was just 2 years old. He held Venables' hand the entire walk, thinking they were taking him home. Eric Smith. He was riding his bike to summer camp. So was the boy he killed. On August 2nd, 1993, 13-year-old Eric Smith was heading to a recreation program in the small town of Savona in New York. 4-year-old Derek Roby was walking to the same place, alone for the first time. His mother let him go. It was just 1 block, with no streets to cross. He kissed her and said, "I love you, Mom," but he never arrived. Smith lured him into a patch of woods. He strangled him until he passed out, dropped a large rock on his head, sodomized him with a stick. Then he opened...
Oh my gosh! Yo!
Eric's lunchbox, took out a container of Kool-Aid and poured it into the wounds. Then he arranged the body. He removed the sneakers and placed them next to opposite hands. Derek was just 4 years and 10 months old. 4 days later, Smith walked into the police command center and offered to help solve the case. Investigators said he was upbeat, happy, and didn't want the conversation to end. He was sitting in front of the people looking for the killer. His family eventually sat him down, and he broke. "I'm sorry, Mom. I killed that little boy." Smith had been bullied for years, for his ears, his red hair, and his glasses. When asked at a parole hearing if killing Derek felt good, he said, "At the moment, it did, yes." When asked if he would have done it again had he not been caught, he said, "Yes." He was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 9 years to life. He was denied parole 10 times. He was then released in 2022 after 28 years.
Oh my
Derek's
gosh.
parents...
He's gonna kill somebody again, bro. He's gonna kill somebody again. Listen, when I say they need to die, I'm not saying as a kid. When they turn 18, when they're legally an adult, that's when they need to die. Sodomized a 4-year-old boy, and he is back out on the street. Chat, had a man did this to a little boy, and they let him out, we would be calling the justice system corrupt. We would be mad. We would be livid. All hell would need to be paid. But since he was 13 when he did this horrible crime, he's a kid. You know, he's probably changed. No, man, you can't come back from something like that, bro. You can't.
Spent every one of those years fighting to keep him locked up. On August 2nd, wherever they are, they still get white ice cream with sprinkles. That's what Derek called vanilla. Joshua Phillips. For 7 days, an entire city searched for an 8-year-old girl, and she was under her neighbor's bed the whole time. On November 3rd, 1998, 8-year-old Maddie Clifton walked across the street to play with 14-year-old Joshua Phillips in Jacksonville, Florida, but she never came home. Police and volunteers searched for a week. Phillips joined the search. At one point, a sergeant entered Phillips's bedroom to question him. Phillips sat on his bed, petted his dog, and answered calmly. Maddie's body was underneath that bed the entire time. On November 10th, Phillips's mother noticed a wet spot on his floor. She lifted the base of the waterbed frame and found Maddie. Phillips said it started as an accident. They were playing baseball, and he hit her in the eye with the ball. She started bleeding and screaming. He panicked, not because she was hurt, but because his father was coming home. His father was violent and had strict rules. No children in the house, especially not girls. Phillips dragged her inside. He hit her with the bat to stop the screaming and stuffed her under his bed. When his father came home, he acted normal, then went back to his room. Maddie was still alive, moaning under the mattress. He lifted it, cut her throat, and stabbed her 7 times. Then he went to school the next morning, and the morning after that, every morning for a week, sleeping on top of the body of the girl he killed. Phillips was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. He was just 14. The prosecutor who put him away later said he had second thoughts. The sheriff who pushed...
Why would you... Bro, I'm gonna be real, man. Only way I would lose a wink of sleep if I had any involvement with a case like this. 2 things. Thinking about the case would make me lose sleep, and if that person got out would make me lose sleep. If I did my job the correct way to where this person is locked up for the rest of their life or they're either killed, I would be able to sleep soundly at night, man. He could have just, hey, you're crying? Okay, here, just go home. Go to your parent. Brought her to his room, beat her over the head, then slit her throat. No, bro. I think I'm gonna title this video, Kids I Think Deserve the Death Penalty. People are gonna be mad at me. I'm probably gonna make headlines. People are gonna probably be try to cancel me for this, but if you can sit up here and tell me that these kids don't deserve the death penalty, I would argue with anybody. We can talk about it. Hey, you want to debate me on this? Let's go ahead.
For the sentence admitted, I never got the feeling it was a malicious, calculated murder. It was an impulsive act that, given a different set of circumstances, would never have happened.
Okay, I like that. It was an impulsive act that, given a different set of circumstances, would have never happened. So, would you be saying the same thing if he was 14 when he did this crime? 4 years, let's fast forward. 4 years, he's 18. He does this exact same crime. Are we keeping that same energy? Be honest. Are we keeping that same energy had he been 18 and did this? Are we saying this was impulsive, given a different set of circumstances, it would have never happened? Yeah, no. They're gonna say it was planned. They're gonna say that he had these thoughts, all of that.
Phillips is still in prison. Maddie's sister said it best. Maddie didn't get a second chance, and her killer's sentence should be final too. Mary...
Listen, while I do think these kids deserve the death penalty, if they get life in prison, I'm not mad about that. But it's the fact that they're giving them life and then letting them out. That's the part that I'm most mad about. And I think now it's actually illegal. Can a minor get a life sentence? Yes, a minor can receive a life sentence in the United States, but only if they are tried and convicted as an adult. Okay, so as a minor, they can't get life.
Her mother tried to kill her before she could walk, and by the time she was 10, she was killing other people's children. Mary Bell was born in 1957 in Scotswood, one of the poorest neighborhoods in Newcastle, England. Her mother was a teenager who sold her body to survive and told nurses to take the thing away from her the moment Mary was born. She dropped her from a window, fed her sleeping pills, sold her to a stranger through an adoption agency. And what happened to Mary inside that house, behind closed doors, starting at the age of 4, was something the courts would later describe as among the worst child abuse ever documented in Britain. Mary never told anyone, but something inside her was building. At school, she tried to strangle classmates, stuffed sand into a girl's mouth, stubbed a cigarette on another child's cheek. The teachers noticed. They called the police, but nobody did anything. On May 25, 1968, the day before her 11th birthday, Mary strangled 4-year-old Martin Brown in a derelict house. Police couldn't determine a cause of death and ruled it an accident. The next day, she broke into a nursery and left notes. One read, "We did murder Martin Brown, you bastard." Police dismissed them as a prank. 2 months later, she strangled 3-year-old Brian Howe on a patch of wasteland. She carved the letter M into his stomach with a razor blade. She even mutilated his body with scissors. At Brian's funeral...
Oh my gosh! Yo!
A detective watched Mary standing outside as the coffin was carried out. She was laughing, rubbing her hands together. He later said, "I thought, my God, I've got to bring her in. She'll do another one." She was convicted of manslaughter on grounds of diminished responsibility. She was just 11. She was diagnosed with psychopathic personality disorder. She served 12 years and was then released at 23 with a new name and lifetime anonymity.
What? Oh, I'm never going to the U. No wonder you guys got Schoolboy Q, man. No, I said Schoolboy Q. Smart Schoolboy. If Smart Schoolboy, or whatever his name is, got arrested, they would just give him a new identity and he'll be cool. I said Schoolboy Q. Yeah, if Smart Schoolboy 9 got arrested, he would be chilling. Listen, man. This is definitely a different case. You feel me? I think with cases like this, you got to take into account like maybe what abuse that they went through. But even with the abuse that she went through, man, that in no play, in my opinion, gives any right to what she did to those other kids. So this case, me personally, maybe not the death penalty, but 12 years and a new life, no, you can't see life again. I'm sorry you were dealt a bad hand, but we cannot trust you to be back in life. We can't. You have to just die in prison, you know? It just is what it is. Man.
She has a daughter now, and a granddaughter. Neither name has ever been made public. The courts decided that the child who killed 2 boys deserved a second life, one that no one would ever be allowed to find.
I'm happy for
that the
her.
Child
I hope everything's well with her family and all that, but had I been in charge, she wouldn't have, no. You would not have gotten that. Because those little kids don't get a second life. They're never gonna have kids or grandkids. Their parents are only ever gonna be able to remember them as 3-year-olds for the rest of the parent's life. You mutilated a little boy. Oh man, this video pissed me off, chat. And I'm sure I'm gonna piss a lot of people off with this video.